Welcome, like I said, to our virtual open house here from King's. Before we kind of launch in with lots of useful information about the university, I just want to start by saying that even though we are gathered virtually in a kind of digital space, we're still in a physical space here on the King's campus. King's is in Mi'kma'ki, the unceded Mi'kmaq territory. Everyone in this territory, everyone in Mi'kma'ki is subject to the peace and friendship treaties that call for peaceful coexistence and good relationships along with everyone among all those that live in Mi'kma'ki. And the university also recognizes that the part of Mi'kma'ki, which is also known as Nova Scotia, is home to African Nova Scotian people, a distinct people with their own important histories, contributions, and legacies. African Nova Scotian people have been here for over 400 years. If you want to use the chat feature in Zoom to say hello and let us know where you're joining us from today, you're more than welcome to do that. We'd love to know where you're joining us from, but it's totally up to you if you want to use the chat to say hi to us and to all of the other participants. My name is Yolana Wassersug. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the admissions and recruitment manager here at King's. I'm also a King's graduate. I did my degree here ages ago, but I love it at King's, and I've been working here since 2017. And even though you can't see and hear them yet because their cameras are off and their mics are off, I'm not the only person you're going to hear from today. We have a panel of 4 incredibly awesome students who are joining me as part of this webinar. They range from students in their 4th year to students who are just about to graduate. They are in a bunch of different types of degree programs, so they'll be online towards the end of the session to answer any questions that you have. So here's what you can expect from today's game plan agenda for this virtual open house. And hello to all the people who have signed in. So far, it looks like some people have said hello who are joining us from Ottawa, from Toronto. There's even someone signed in from Kenya, which is amazing. So hello to you all. If you are listening to this webinar, we just want to acknowledge that there's going to be different people who are listening to this who have different information needs. Some of you who are signed in right now are going to be students who are in grade 10 or 11 and are maybe thinking of applying to King's in the future and are just looking to get some introductory information. Some of you are probably in grade 12 and are looking to apply to universities this year. Maybe you've already applied to King's or started your application. Some of you, I think, are students who have already been admitted. And if that's the category then you're in, then congratulations. That's so exciting that you've gotten into university. But depending on what stage you're at in this process, you might need different information. And we're going to try to keep this open house pretty general with a lot of like basic information that's useful to everyone. I will say we are focusing on undergraduate programs today. I know there might be a couple people who signed up today who are interested in advanced or graduate programs, like the 1-year advanced Bachelor of Journalism, the Masters of Journalism, or the Master of Fine Arts. If you're interested in those graduate programs, this session might not be for you. We are really focusing today on undergraduate programs. So I'm going to cover a little bit of information about undergraduate academic programs. I'll talk a little bit about the King's relationship with our partner university, Dalhousie, and I'll touch on some information about admissions requirements, undergraduate entrance scholarships and awards. And then we're just going to open it up to all the questions that you have. At that point, our student panelists will join me, and you'll be able to ask them anything you want. If there's questions that are already on your mind, if you want to use if you want to use the Q&A feature in Zoom, which you should see on your screen, to type in questions that you have, you go right ahead. That Q&A feature is really handy, and we'll get to all of your questions, or as many of them as we possibly can, before we run out of time today. So let's start with some basic information. The University of King's College is one of the smaller universities in Atlantic Canada. We're a pretty tiny little school. Our total student population is just about 1,000 students. So that's pretty little for a university. Our whole campus is really encompassed in one square of buildings. The picture you can see on the screen is the Arts Administration Building, one of our main campus buildings. Just tucked in behind it, you can see the new academic building, and you can actually see a couple wings of our residence buildings. This is Cochrane Bay and North Pole Bay on the other side of it. Right there where my cursor is, I think you can all see my cursor, is my office window where I'm sitting right now while I talk to you. The whole campus is very nice and small, but we're also connected to a larger institution, Dalhousie University. While we have about 1,000 students, our friends at Dalhousie have about 20,000. So there really is a nice mixture on our campus of a smaller community feel and also a larger and more expansive community. And I'll talk a bit more about the relationship between the two universities in just a moment. There's 4 types of undergraduate degrees that we offer: Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Music, and Bachelor of Journalism. Any one of those degrees can be done as an honors program. The Bachelor of Journalism program is designed for that, so it's a BJH degree, a Bachelor of Journalism honors. Arts, Science, and Music, we get a lot of students who do an honors degree in those subjects. And right in the middle of the screen, you can see the letters FYP. In this case, that doesn't stand for 4U page, it stands for Foundation Year Program. So FIP, the Foundation Year Program, is the unique first year program that we offer at King's. Almost all of the first year students at King's do the same courses, the same experience in their first year. That's pretty unusual and quite special. So that means that a student who's getting an arts degree and a student who's getting a science degree and a student who is really passionate about journalism or really passionate about music, all of those students are going to be meeting each other in their first year classes and learning the same things on the same schedule. Not every student at King's does FIP. So if foundation year program isn't for you, that's okay. There's still lots of things that might be right for you at King's. But I will say something like 85 to 95% of the first year students at King's are doing foundation year program. So it is a very popular first year, and that's why we're going to spend a little bit more time talking about it during this webinar today. FIP has a pretty unique structure. So on my slide here, you've got a little infographic that's designed to make it a little clearer, and I'll talk you through what you can see here. So if we aren't doing foundation year program, if we're doing a really standard first year of university, your first year might look a little bit like this, with 5 classes each semester, if you're a full-time student, or 10 classes during the year. And you can imagine that those 5 classes you're taking each semester are all potentially in different buildings on the campus, potentially being taught by different professors with a different group of students in each class. So that would be a very standard first year experience. In contrast, the King's FIP first year is a more integrated first year program. So students who are doing FIP are learning the same things at the same time, are on the same schedule as each other. Foundation year program basically fills up 4 days out of the week for most students. So students who are in FIP are doing FIP together, and it's worth the equivalent of 4 classes. If you're getting an arts degree, a journalism degree, or a music degree, you're doing FIP 4 days a week, and you also have room in your schedule for 1 additional class. So for a journalism student, for example, you'd be doing FIP, and you'd also be taking that first year journalism class that you need to move smoothly into the second year of a journalism degree. If you're a music major, you'd be doing FIP 4 days a week and also taking a class in the music department. And if you're an arts student, a Bachelor of Arts is a pretty flexible type of degree. So you'd be doing FIP 4 days a week and also taking 1 additional elective course alongside foundation year. It could be a language class or a science class or just another subject that you're interested in. There's really a lot of opportunities for different types of courses to do alongside FIP. And for students who are planning to get a BSc or a Bachelor of Science degree, we just slightly modify that first year experience. So instead of doing FIP 4 days a week, science students come to FIP classes 3 days a week. And that leaves room in their schedule to take 2 additional classes alongside foundation year program, typically a first year level science class and a first year level math class. So no matter which way you, which type of degree you're getting, no matter which type of degree you're getting, you can do foundation year and then move smoothly into the second year of your degree. From second year and beyond, King's students can continue to take classes at King's. They can also take classes next door through Dalhousie University, and they can actually mix and match between both campuses. So taking some classes at King's and some at Dal. The foundation year program is really built around books and ideas. Students in this program do quite a lot of reading. I always like to be really upfront and honest about the fact that there is reading in this program. We wouldn't want anyone to show up and start doing foundation year and be like blindsided by the size of the reading list. It is a program that's built around books. And in this program, we're moving through great and influential works of literature, history, philosophy, and social sciences. We're reading all sorts of different kinds of primary texts, different writers who have influenced our world and shaped the way that we think. And we're moving through those texts in chronological order. So you can see on my slide, the program's broken down into 6 sections. Section 1 is the ancient world. So in that section, we're traveling way back in time. We're going to ancient Mesopotamia, Greece, and Rome. We're really thinking about some of the earliest stories that human beings ever wrote down or ever told each other. And then we're traveling our way through history, moving through the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, the age of reason or the Enlightenment, the era of revolutions, and finally, we're landing in the contemporary world or the present day. So we're really thinking about how we arrived at this moment in time, the ideas, thinkers, artists, scientists, philosophers that brought us to this time in history, so that we can kind of explore our world with a little bit of a deeper context. Every day, foundation year program students attend a lecture in the morning. These are some pictures of what that lecture hall looks like. So in the lecture, an expert who is someone who really, really knows that text or book or thinker or idea that you've been reading, that lecturer is going to be an expert in that subject and will share their perspective with you. And then in the afternoon, you're in a super small discussion group class. We call those discussion group classes tutorials at King's. And tutorials have an absolute maximum cap of 15 students in them. So they are really nice small class sizes where you can really dig into your ideas and discuss and debate and talk about what you've been learning. So that's foundation year program in a nutshell. It's really built around books. Students in this program are doing a lot of reading. I should also be upfront about the fact that they're also writing. Students in foundation year write an essay every 2 weeks. So, you know, those essays are on a regular schedule. You know when they're coming. You get a lot of feedback on everything you write, so that you can really build up those skills. You can definitely ask our panelists more questions about foundation year when we get into the Q&A, but that's just a brief overview to get us started. As you move through your degree, you're probably going to declare your major, and you'll likely declare your major sometime in your second year of study. What you choose to major in or specialize in is really up to you, and it can be as customized to your interests as you want it to be. So on my slide, I have just a selection. This isn't even the complete list of all sorts of programs that are taught at King's and Dalhousie. The programs with a little K next to them are taught on the King's campus. The rest of them are taught through our partner school, Dalhousie, where we share our Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences and our Faculty of Science. And you don't have to have just one major, right? You might find that you're passionate about lots of different things. You might lean into having a double major or a combined honors degree or a major in one subject and a minor in another. Mixing and matching between programs is very possible, and academic advisors or peer advisors on our campus can help you understand exactly how to plan out your degree so that you're studying the stuff that you are most interested in. I want to take just a moment to highlight our journalism school. King's is widely recognized as one of the best journalism schools in Canada, and so we always want to take a little minute just to shine a light on how great this program is. Along with foundation year program, journalism really is, this is a bad pun, but one of the jewels in the King's crown, right? It's a really special program. One of the reasons that journalism is so successful at King's is because of the emphasis we put on hands-on learning and hands-on experience. So every student graduating from the journalism program will do an internship. Everyone will get real world work experience. You can see on my slide where it says The Signal down here. The Signal is the in-house newspaper of our journalism students. So that's where our journalism students are publishing articles, posting links to their podcasts, their video documentaries, all sorts of writing and communicating that they are doing. You can find it at Signal HFX, like Halifax, signalhfx.ca. And if you check out that website, you'll see exactly what our journalism students are currently working on. And then also on the slide, you can see the logos for a couple of different media organizations like TSN, CBC, Elle Magazine, the Globe and Mail. All of those are examples of places where some of our students have recently completed internships. Okay, so King's and Dalhousie are really interconnected with each other. Like I said, we share our entire Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, our entire Faculty of Science, and we also share our performing arts programs. So that would be programs like theater and music. We also share a ton of different resources. So just to give you some concrete examples, King's has a really beautiful library on our campus. It's like the most peaceful place in the world to read a book or to get some studying done. But if you need resources at a larger library, you have access to Dalhousie's Killam Library, which is huge and is full of everything you could possibly need. Another great example would be our gym. King's has a lovely gym on our campus. It's got a cardio room, a weight room. It has great facilities for all of our varsity athletes. But if you want to walk on over next door to Dalhousie, you can access the Dalplex Fitness Center, which has the Olympic-sized pool and the rock climbing wall and gajillion fitness classes that you can choose from. So in every way, King students have access to the resources that are available through Dal. One that I think is especially important to highlight is the International Student Center. I know there are some international students listening to this webinar right now, and the International Center can help students navigate processes like applying for study permits and student visas. On my picture here, this is a nice aerial photo. So this square of buildings where my cursor is hovering, that's King's, and everything you can see that surrounds us basically on three sides is Dalhousie. I just want to highlight a little bit of like what people go on to do after they graduate from an undergraduate degree at King's. One thing that's quite cool is a lot of our students are passionate about law. We definitely get a lot of students that go to law school after completing King's. We have a really unique partnership with the law school at the University of Calgary. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you could go to ukings.ca/Calgary Law to explore that option. But if you're also curious in other types of careers, there's a really great resource on our website, which is our King's Community page, where if you want to look up different graduates from the university and read about the careers they have and what kinds of things they're doing after they graduate, it's a really nice tool because you can filter out by the type of degree someone did or the type of career that they're doing now. So if you want to, for example, see everyone from King's who has a profile on our website who's doing a creative career, like they're an artist or performer in some way, you can search for that and read their stories and learn about how they got there. Or if you'd like to see everyone who's working in like health and related fields, you can check that out as well. So it's a really nice way to kind of get a sense of our alumni community and all the interesting different things that they do. Okay, without taking up too much more time before we open it up to questions, I do just want to take us through some basic nuts and bolts information about admissions requirements and scholarships. So in this slide, you can see our undergraduate admission requirements. It's broken down by program, and you'll notice that for most of our programs, except for the Bachelor of Journalism, you can choose to either do foundation year program or you can come in as an undeclared student, which just means the same thing as like a general studies student or a student who's doing a standard first year. No matter what, we will look at your grade in your high school, in your grade 12 English class. We really want to see your English mark. If you're doing a Bachelor of Science, we'll also take a look at your grade in math. It should be a pre-calculus or calculus level math class. So typically we're looking at English and your next 4 strongest academic subjects. But if you're applying to a Bachelor of Science, we're looking at English, math, and your next 3 strongest academic subjects. And a typical admissions average that's needed to be admitted to King's is a 75%, or an 80% or higher to be admitted to the Bachelor of Journalism program. So that's how the admission averages work. We're not looking at every single class you've ever taken in high school. Really, we're looking to see 5 classes, usually English and 4 others, that are at the grade 12 level. If you apply during the early admissions period, which we're still in right now, it's December 7th as we're recording this webinar, and this is still the early admissions period, we might be looking at your grade 11 marks if you apply during that early period. Typically, we'll be looking at first semester of grade 12. Scholarships. We've got 2 types of scholarships that we offer at King's. At the top of my slide here, these are called General Entrance Awards. General Entrance Awards are really straightforward because you don't have to do any extra paperwork or any extra application forms to be considered. You just need to apply to King's before March 1st, and then we'll automatically assess you for a General Entrance Award based off of your grades. So if your admissions average is an 85 or higher, you're guaranteed to get a scholarship. They start at $2,000, they go up to $3,500, and they are renewable awards. And then on the lower half of my slide, I have a list of our major awards, which are really just our larger scholarships. For those awards, there usually is a separate application form that you would need to fill out to be considered. Not all of them require that application form, but most of them do. And in that application form, there's an original essay topic that you can write about. I will highlight, along with this pretty general virtual open house webinar today, we also have some separate webinars coming up in February that are all about scholarships and all about financial aid. So after this webinar is over, if you're hearing my voice right now, you're going to get a follow-up email from me that has links to all sorts of other upcoming events from King's, including those sessions where we're going to really dig in deep, talking about how scholarships work and how financial aid works. Couple key dates to be aware of. Applications are open right now. They opened on October 15th of this year. If you're a student in grade 11 and you're wondering when you can apply after October 15th of next year. March 1st is our scholarship deadline. So you need to apply by March 1st to be eligible for general entrance scholarships. And if you're applying for one of those major awards, your scholarship application is due in on March 1st. April 1st is the deadline to apply if you're an international student. International students have earlier deadlines because you need a little bit more time after you've been admitted to be able to complete your study permit application. May 15th is our deadline to accept your offer if you've been admitted to King's. So if you have gotten into King's and you know that you want to come, you accept your offer by paying an admissions deposit. It's a $200 deposit. It's non-refundable. May 15th is also an important date if you'd like to live on campus in our residence buildings. You need to apply for residence before May 15th because everyone who applies before May 15th, if you're a new first-year undergraduate student, we have a guaranteed space for you as long as we get your residence application before May 15th. Early June is when your course registration will open up, and then all sorts of nice stuff comes out during the summer. Late June is when you're going to send us your final high school transcripts so that we have that on file. We'll send you the FIP reading list if you're taking foundation year program. Your residence room assignments will go out. You'll find out who your roommate is going to be, all of that stuff. So that'll happen all through the summer. Before I open up to the Q&A, I just want to highlight a couple other upcoming events. And like I said, I'll send you a follow-up email with more details about all of these and information about how to sign up. If you're going to be coming to Halifax to visit us, we would love to have you. We offer campus tours on weekdays all throughout the year. You can sign up for a campus tour on any date that works for you. I know that probably along with students, some of the other people who are signed in for this webinar are parents or guardians or other family members or loved ones of students. And I just want to highlight that just for you, we have an info session coming up at the end of January that's specifically for parents and guardians, especially aimed at those parents and guardians who have a student currently in grade 12 who's applying to King's and hoping to maybe start their degree with us in September 2025. So if that describes you, you should come along for that Parents and Guardians info session. The scholarships and financial aid sessions that I mentioned are in early February. They give you about a month to absorb all the information and complete your scholarship application before the March 1st deadline. If you are in Toronto and you want to connect with us in person, we're doing a special event just in Toronto at the beginning of February. So I'll send some more details about that. And here on campus in Halifax is our big winter open house on February 22nd. So if you're planning a trip, that's a great day to do it. I know February is not the most beautiful time of year in Nova Scotia, but it will be a super fun day on campus with lots of helpful events that give you a chance to learn more about the university. So I'm going to ask the 4 student panelists who are online with me, if they want to turn their cameras on, you can honestly ask about anything you're interested in. I've put some examples on the slide. If you want to ask about student jobs or societies, clubs, student groups, study abroad experiences, what it's like living in residence, how the food in the dining hall is, any special King's traditions. I'll stop sharing my screen so you can see everybody clearly. And maybe I'm going to get everyone to introduce themselves. So Ryan, since you're in the top corner of my screen, would you like to start and just say your name and what year you're in and what you're studying at King's?
Hi, my name is Ryan Ho. I'm from Calgary and I'm currently in my first year here at King's. I'm doing foundation year program in arts.
Miranda?
Hi, I'm Miranda. My pronouns are they, she. I'm from Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, which is just about an hour and a half outside of Halifax. And I'm in my final year of a Bachelor of Arts in Gender and Women's Studies with a minor in history and also a certificate in art history and visual culture.
Noam?
Hi, my name is Noam. I'm from Halifax, and I'm in my second year, I'm doing a Bachelor of Science in Economics, and also studying violin at Dal's Fountain School of Performing Arts.
And Jenna?
Hi, I'm Jenna. My pronouns are she, her. I'm from Guelph, Ontario, which is about an hour outside of Toronto, and I'm in my third year of the journalism program at King's, and I also am doing a minor in international development over at Dalhousie.
Awesome. I'm so grateful to all of you for being here so that I don't have to take all these questions myself. So we're just going to work through the questions that are in the Q&A and in the chat. I see that there's already a question that someone has asked, which is about if you have the same professor for every tutorial session when you're in FIP. And I feel free, anyone who, I think everyone in this call did foundation year programs. Whoever feels like diving in to answer it, go right ahead.
Okay, I can answer this one. So you'll have your main tutor, and then so your main tutor will be with you for 3 out of the 6 sections in FIP. It's kind of scattered depending on which tutorial you're in, but then the other 3 sections will be filled with just tutors from the faculty, from like faculty fellows, faculty seniors, etc., who will just be filling that role for you during that section.
And you're also with, even though you're with different faculty, so you'll have your main tutor and your other tutors, as Ryan mentioned, you're with the same group of students the whole year. So the group of students doesn't change. So you really have like the opportunity to really build a lot of like trust and like friendship with each other when you're talking about kind of big ideas. Okay, there's another question here. I think Noam is probably the best person to speak to this one, which is how does FIP change when students are in the science program? Do they have the same number of essays, books, other requirements?
Yeah, I can definitely answer that. I actually did do FIP Arts and then transferred into Bachelor of Science, but I'm still very familiar with how the FIP Science program works. Yeah, it's not exactly the same. As Yolanda mentioned earlier, you go to 3 lectures a week instead of 4 lectures a week. So you do read, in terms of like readings, you're like every lecture has its own required reading, and then like, some readings might be spread over several lectures, but like all the like if you're a science student you don't go to Thursday lectures, so any reading that's for Thursday lectures is not a reading you have to do, though of course you're still welcome to do it and go to the lecture if it fits in your schedule. And then in terms of essays, the science students do two less essays, one, which is like I think one per term, and just because you have the extra course, and a lot of times you have more midterms and stuff like that. And I think those are kind of the main differences between a FIP science program and other FIP streams.
That was perfect. No, I couldn't have explained it better myself. I see that there's a couple of questions in the chat that I think I'll answer because they're more about admissions requirements. So someone has asked, if you are an IB student, so IB is the International Baccalaureate Program, can you apply with only your IB predicted grades, or will percentage grades also be needed? This is a great question. You can apply with just your IB predicted grades. If your school also wants to send us along a transcript with your percentage grades, that's great. Our policy is we will calculate your average based on your IB predicted scores. And if we also have like percentage grades from your high school, we'll calculate your average with that. And then we're going to go with whichever one is better for you. So there's really no harm in sending along all of the information, because we're just going to calculate the admissions average in the way that is the most favorable to the applicant. There's another question here that's about what is our deferral policy. So if you'd like to defer your offer of admissions, and that means you're someone who's been admitted, but you'd like to hold off on a year before you actually start so you can have a gap year. You can absolutely defer. There is the first step is you'll still pay your admissions deposit to hold a space for you in the program. And then there's a deferral form, which you'll find on your admissions portal. that you fill out. You can defer for any number of reasons. If you're planning to take a gap year because you want to work and save some money before you go to university, if you want to volunteer, if you want to travel, any of those are great reasons to defer. The only thing that we won't accept as a reason to defer is if you're going to another college or university for that year to take other classes. If that's the case, then you would still need to reapply to King's, and we would consider you a transfer student when you reapply. So we'd be able to assess you for any transfer credits that you may have gained during that other year of study at another post-secondary institution. That's a great question. How many certificates is a student typically allowed to complete along with a double major? Okay, I'm throwing this one to Miranda, who in addition to being a student at King's is also a peer advisor and has done a lot of academic advising on this campus. So Miranda,
Yeah. So as a peer academic advisor in the registrar's office, I help first through third year students kind of develop their degree programs. So the most certificates I've seen a student graduate with is 3. It really depends on your individual program, how you're able to make those courses count towards your program, and how many you're like able to fit in with your schedule. So the fun part about certificates as well is that, for example, I have an art history visual culture certificate, and those courses, because they're a separate certificate aside from my degree, I can count those courses towards my major or minor programs, which is like something we kind of play around with. You can't double dip for a major and a minor, but you totally can for certificates. So most of the time, I don't see students go past 2, but in like special circumstances, I could totally see someone doing 3. And I don't think there's any restrictions on doing 3.
that's awesome. Very good. Helpful to know. Thank you. Okay, and can I just say there are so many questions that are really good in the Q&A right now. So I'll just highlight, I think we have time to get to all of them, and I want people to keep on asking and writing in questions. But if we run out of time, you can also always reach anyone in my office by emailing admissions@ukings.ca, and we will get an answer for you. Okay, so there's a great question here that says, can you, the students, speak to any strengths or weaknesses of residence and dining hall? And I think we'll all have lots of opinions about this. Jenna, you haven't had a chance to chime in yet. Do you want to take the lead on this question?
Yeah, for
Or start us
sure.
off? Yeah.
So I assume everybody else on the panel also lived in residence in first year. King's really, really encourages all of the first year students to live in residence if you can. It's a really big part of the community and the culture, is being able to do the same program at the same time as everybody that lives within a 30-second walk of you, and also being in the dining hall at the same time. So our dining hall doesn't have like super long hours, so it's not open from like 7 a.m. to like 10 p.m. So typically, it's only open a couple hours at each meal. So typically you're in there at the same time of all of your other peers that are in FIP, which is a really special opportunity to kind of eat as one community every single day. Other than that, we have a big, beautiful dining hall. It looks like something out of Hogwarts. Every time I tour people around, they always say that. The food is great. There's lots of options. There's also lots of opportunities to kind of create your own meal if that's what you're into. We have like, there's always a salad bar. There's always like kind of a special little like frying station and some ingredients that the staff leaves as well if you want to kind of make your own thing. That's your prerogative. And then of course we have the prepared food every day. So lots of options for the dining hall. I know lots of people say their favorite meal is breakfast. I always liked making sure I was able to be up and have breakfast with everybody before my FIP lectures every day. So that's really central. What's really great about King's is how small it is. So like I was saying, all of your friends in FIP are on one quad, a 30-second walk away at all times. Same with the dining hall. So it's super, super convenient to get meals in between classes. Residence-wise, we have lots of different residence options so that there is kind of something for everybody depending on what you're looking for. We have single rooms, and then we have a traditional double room dorm kind of option. It looks like Ryan might be in one of those right now. And so our big kind of hall, Alex Hall, has a lot of double rooms. So it's 2 single beds in a room, and then you have very traditionally, like you might see in the media, you have a roommate right in there with you. And then Alex Hall also has a lot of single rooms. And then I lived in the Bays in first year. And so the Bays is kind of a really unique residence opportunity. I always promote the Bays when I'm kind of letting people know about the school, because how it works is you have the hallway and then you have one room and then a door and a wall and another room. So it's like being in a double, and it's like having a roommate. So you all automatically have a built-in friend and somebody to do everything with, especially when you get there. I'm still really good friends with my roommate from first year, but you also get your own space, which is really, really great. And so this is a kind of residence that you don't find in many other places. And so I think Kings is really unique for that also. Sorry, I know that was a lot of information, but
Well, that was awesome. Thank you so much. I think maybe I'll just, Miranda, if there's anything you want to add, especially because you have been living in residence, I think, for longer than anyone else on the panel.
I've been living in residence for the last 2 years. I'm currently in my room at Alex Hall. I live in an Alex Hall single because I am a Dawn in residence. And a Dawn is what we call our residence assistants or some sort of like community organizer in residence. So each floor of Alex Hall and each individual Bay residence also has a Dawn that lives in the community. They're typically either an upper year student from third year beyond or a like young working professional. We have Dawns that are somewhere in like their mid to late 20s as well. We have one Dawn that's in medical school, some others that are in social work at Dal. So we have a lot of kind of varied experiences that we help our students with. And Dawns kind of serve as your first point of, I'm feeling homesick and I need someone to chat with right now. Where's my Dawn? Can I go chat with my Dawn? Dawns do one community gathering a month and then one other event per month to kind of foster community on your floor or in your bay, and also just kind of like bring people together.
Awesome. We've talked a lot about residence and dining. Before we get off the subject, especially since the question asker said, what are the strengths and weaknesses of residence and dining? This is my job is to hype up Kings. I am gonna point out a weakness because I really want you to be aware of it. A weakness is you may not get exactly the kind of room that you want to have, especially if you wait to apply late. So the earlier you apply to residence, the more likely you are to live in the style of room that is your first choice. So while we have a guaranteed bed on campus for everyone who's applied before May 15th, we don't guarantee a specific type of room. And there are a couple different types, as Jenna pointed out. If you want to see like floor plans of those, you can go to our website to see the room layout. And there's also a virtual campus tour on our website where you can see like nice like 360 photography of the different residence room styles to give you a sense of it. Okay, great question in the chat here that says, how do students who are present feel about the amount of reading required in FIP? So who wants to jump in with the size of the reading list, the amount of reading? Kind of looking at you, Ryan, since you're
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm the one who's currently in FIP. It really depends. One of the biggest skills that I've learned here is just time management, because I know that I have to do these readings for tomorrow. I read all the time. So you take a look at the condensed lecture schedule, you look at the amount of pages, and you kind of just like plan around that. I would say some days it's a lot harder to get through the readings. Some days it's pretty easy to get through the readings. So it's hard to say generally. There are some weeks where I just feel really overwhelmed and I just throw myself into my bed and I just read for like 4 hours. And then there's other days where I just kind of have more room to chill. So it's a really hard question to ask. But generally, I would say if you have good time management skills and you are very rigorous about it all, you will be okay with everything. You'll figure it out.
I have one thing to add as well. Is that I found like that it's like really interesting. You get like I found that like I didn't really realize this before FIP, but like reading is really a skill, and like the more you do it, the better you get at it. And like by the time you get to the end of FIP, you realize you're actually a much better reader. And like there's books that I remember reading in high school that I had a hard time reading, and then I read them after FIP, and they were really easy to read. So it is really something that you learn and get better at as well.
One more thing, sorry. I'm also just gonna say that like sometimes there are events here. So for example, when we were reading William Shakespeare's Winter's Tale, Maria Oichner, one of the professors, she hosted like a read-along session. So everyone kind of gathered and read the text out loud, and we got through 4 out of the 5 acts of The Winter's Tales. So that was very productive, very great. So there are things like that that happen around campus to just get ahead on readings.
That's
I'd like
genuinely
to
so
add
fun.
one
Yeah.
quick thing about reading, if that's okay. There's an old adage in FIP, and that's so there's 3 things that you have to do pretty much for any given day. There's reading, tutorial, and lecture. And kind of the word on the street is you need to make sure that you are doing 2 out of 3. It's a ton of reading. You really won't be able to read every single word. I don't know anybody that read every single word. But as long as you are, fully immersing yourself in the program, making sure that you are keeping up and invested in the content and talking to your professors and kind of becoming smart about which reading you're doing when, and knowing when you might need to take a break and instead might need to, instead discuss the lecture with a friend or discuss the text. As long as you are immersing yourself in the program and doing it to the best of your ability, you'll be totally fine. The other thing to know, and I didn't know this going in, is FIP is incredibly philosophy heavy. I attended all the webinars, I toured the school, and I still wasn't prepared for the amount of philosophy. I had no experience in philosophy, and so I was really excited to be able to learn about that, even though I wasn't necessarily expecting that to be the case. So if you don't have a background in that, don't worry, but just prepare yourself for a bunch of philosophy and for the way that you think to completely change based on the readings that you do.
Yeah, that's a very valid heads up. Thank you, Jenna. There is going to be philosophy in the program. A lot of people, I think, go into it thinking it's going to be like an English class where it's all literature, but that's not the case. There's a question here that's about how it's different if you're doing a major in journalism, the BJH, versus a minor in journalism, and how the classes differ. I will say people who are doing a minor in journalism typically don't do the internship component or the workshop components. And I'm wondering, Jenna, you're doing the major, so I don't know how familiar you are with the minor. Miranda, you might be more familiar with it through your academic advising experience, if you wanted to speak to that a little bit.
I can definitely speak on that. So the difference really between the Bachelor of Journalism honors and the minor in journalism studies, the main thing is that you're not going to get that 4th year internship experience. The Bachelor of Journalism honors students, their entire 4th year is just journalism, or their entire year before their graduation is just journalism. Whereas in the minor in journalism, what they're going to ask you to do is take that 1st year course that all of the Bachelor of Journalism honors students take. And then they're going to ask you to take somewhere between 18 to 24 credit hours in journalism classes at some upper year levels. There's definitely more information about that if you come speak with an academic advisor. You can do that before you even become a student at King's as well. If you want to speak with an academic advisor, we have a whole academic advising website, and that's your best way to kind of learn how to get in touch with us and learn some of those basic requirements of what's going to be expected of you in your 1st year when you're registering. But that's a long way out for you guys, so don't worry too much about it now.
There's a question here that I'll answer briefly, which is, can you get any credit if you're doing IB courses? And I'm just going to expand this question. The person didn't ask, but I'll also mention AP or advanced placement courses because it's similar information. So yes, if you're taking IB courses, even if you aren't doing the full IB diploma program and you're just taking a few IB courses, you can get academic credit for any HL, that's higher level IB courses that you're taking. If you get a 5, 6, or 7 on your HL IB exam, that is equivalent to having done a 1st year level university class, and you'll be assessed for those transfer credits. With AP courses or advanced placement courses that you're taking, if you get a 4 or 5 on your AP exam, same deal. It's equivalent to a university class. We follow the same transfer credit policy for IB and AP as our friends at Dalhousie University. So if you're looking for more information about exactly which IB or AP classes you're taking and what university class that's equivalent to, you can go to dal.ca/IB or dal.ca/AP, and it'll give you a transfer credit table of exactly how that works. That's a great question. Oh, and I will say for IB students in particular, your theory of knowledge class, TOK, that's equivalent to a 2nd year philosophy credit, which is really cool. Okay, next question. What is the typical length of the essays that students complete in FIP? Anyone dive in?
Okay. Your essays are gonna be like the word count for your essays is a minimum of 1,200 words and then a maximum of 1,500. However, at the end of each term, we do have like our, I guess, special essays is the way to call them. You first have your position paper in term one, and that's a minimum of 1,500 words to 2,000 words. Is it 2,000 words? I believe so, right? Yeah, okay. And then you have your research paper at the end of the second term, which is, I believe, the same word count, so 1,500 to 2,000.
I believe the research paper is a little bit longer. I think it's like 1,800 to 2,500 or something. It's I remember it's a little bit longer than the position paper. Um, but you can also draw on more things to do it.
Yeah, that's about right. And the regular FIP essays are not research papers, so you're not really drawing on any external sources aside from the text to write those papers. 1,200, 1,500 words is actually not super long. And I gotta say, like, there's an old adage about this, but it can be harder to write something short than write something long. I think there's like was it oh, Mark Twain maybe was, I might be misattributing this quote. There's a famous quote from a famous author who said, I wrote a long letter because I did not have time to write a short one. Because it's harder to write short things. So one of the reasons we do a lot of FIP essays is to give you time to practice that skill and to like work that muscle.
I'm also going to say, like, the quotes that you use and the citations that you use in your essay count towards the word count. So that makes things a lot easier too.
Okay, our next question here is about study abroad. For study abroad, are they established relationships with specific schools? This is a great question. I think I'll jump in and provide some context for it. Study abroad and exchange are two different ways to incorporate some international experiences into your degree. And yes, King's and Dalhousie specifically, it's more Dal, have some specific relationships with particular schools around the world. The International Student Center, which I mentioned in my presentation, that International Student Center is there to help international students with things that they need to know about coming to Canada. But the International Center also has resources for students in general who are looking to have an international abroad experience during their degree. So you can meet with a study abroad advisor to get a lot more information about different types of study abroad experiences you can have. One of the most common types of study abroad experiences that happens at King's, however, rather than a study abroad or an exchange, is what we call a field course. And a field course is when you and a group of other students who are all King's or Dal students basically like pick up your lives for a month and go to another location and take a class in another city. So we have a really cool like art history and like Renaissance art history class that's taught in Florence, Italy. That's awesome. It's like a month in the summer where your professor is a real art historian and you just like walk around museums in Italy and talk about art. And it sounds amazing. I wish they had offered it when I was an undergraduate. And we have another really cool class called Memory, Politics, and Place, which is taught in Berlin. I did a study abroad field course that was taught in a small town in Czechia, the Czech Republic, which was a class on Baroque opera and theater and culture, and it was amazing. My classes were in an actual castle that was surrounded by an actual moat, and that actual moat is filled with live bears. I'm not making it up. You can Google Czech bear castle. I promise you it'll come up. I think I might be, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that this particular amazing group of panelists, maybe, I don't think any of you have done a study abroad. No. Are any of you considering it in the future? It is a pretty popular option. But yeah, you know, it's really gonna depend on like lots of factors, what you're majoring in, how you want to budget for your degree, all sorts of specific criteria. So lots of people
Yeah,
are,
two of my closest friends did the Berlin study abroad or the Berlin field course, not this past summer, but the summer before. They loved it. They were both really interested in German, had both taken German as their like elective alongside foundation year arts, and then were able to like use their German in another place while also getting credits that they didn't have to worry about what they were going to transfer back as because they were already King's classes. So that's like one of the things I see mostly as an academic advisor that's like students are anxious about what their credits are going to come back as, and are going to transfer back to our school as. Whereas when you take one of our field courses, they're already evaluated as King's credit or as Dalhousie credit. So it makes a lot of sense to do a program like that as well.
I will also say never really considered doing a exchange or anything of the sort because it's not super compatible with the journalism program. The field courses which run during the summer are, so that works. And there's actually a field course that's closer to home for journalism students called Reporting in Mi'kma'ki. And so that is when it happens in May every year. And that's when a group of students go and learn about Indigenous reporting and go and into an Indigenous community and work on telling their stories. So that's a bit more of a field course closer to home. I have a friend in my journalism year who is going on exchange next semester, but because of that, that means that she is not going to be graduating with my year anymore, and she will be graduating with the year below us because the journalism program is kind of very specific about doing certain courses in certain years. So even though she was with us for all the first semester, she's going to have to wait to be able to take the second semester courses next year. So, but there's still lots of great opportunities to be able to travel or study abroad in our very generous break in between the school years.
Thank you, Jenna. That's a really good thing to bring up. And I'm so glad you mentioned the Reporting in Mi'kma'ki course because that one's really awesome. There's a question here, which is a quick answer. Do transfer students have the same scholarship opportunities? The short answer is no. If you're a transfer student, usually you're not eligible for entrance scholarships. You are eligible for in-course scholarships. So in-course scholarships would be like a scholarship that you're eligible for between the second and third year of your degree, the third and fourth year of your degree, and so on. But transfer students are not eligible for entrance scholarships, especially because transfer students are often coming in with transfer credits, which have other impacts on their overall budget and can sometimes save them money. So that's how it works for transfer students. Okay, what unique activities at King's have you participated in? Oh, this is a great question. And what are your thoughts on how they inspire community or intellectual growth? Love that. So does anyone want to speak about any unique events that they have been involved in, or like we can expand this maybe to like societies, clubs, student groups?
I have lots. I just feel like I'm talking a lot. I can start, and then if anybody has any extra, please add in. My personal favorite thing that grows community in the very first month of arriving on campus, all of our students participate in something called matriculation. And matriculation is a really cool ceremony where you all don academic robes. And you go into Alumni Hall, and there's a big ceremony that kind of makes you a member of our university community. You take a Latin oath, where you attest your dedication to communal learning and like living and learning together as one really cohesive community. And then you get to sign a really cool, massive book. So in this book, it's called our matricula, hence the name matriculation. The matricula, we have them that date back all the way to 1803 because King's is a very old institution. So every single student who has chosen to sign the matricula has done so all the way back to 1803. And in doing this matriculation, in signing the book, you get to join that kind of history with us. So you sign your name in the book, and then someone who is a professional calligrapher will then sign your name in professional calligraphy next to your name. And then all of our matricula are stored in the library, which our library is also really cool. It has a really awesome archives, which is kind of like a secret museum in Halifax. So our library houses all of those, and you can go back and see it like in 10, 15 years after you graduate. One of my coworkers in the registrar's office, her partner, his name is in the matricula, and like went down to see it one day. So it's really cool to like have your name in the university's history like that. And since you're doing it all with like these new friends that you've met in the first month of school, it's a really cool like photo opportunity to like be wearing your like Hogwartsy gowns and like be walking around in the quad. And since it happens at nighttime, most of our like lights are lit up in the quad. I have fairy lights in my room, and it kind of emulates the same vibe that is given off by the quad in our like square shape of the campus.
Yeah, matriculation is a great one. Anyone else want to share like a King's tradition or activity that they're
I think that's one of the biggest draws of Kings is all of the wonderful traditions and kind of extracurricular community bonding experiences that we have. I can highlight a few of them. So another one where you get to put on your academic robes is twice a semester. We do a big formal meal in the dining hall, and it's kind of like a big catered affair, and everybody dresses up and puts on their academic robes, and there's usually performances from our chapel choir, and there's like speeches, and we all kind of sit and eat dinner together in like a big banquet style. So that's called formal meal. And so King's has a really unique opportunity to have a chapel on campus and for that to be really involved in the school, even if you're not religious, which I'm not. They put on lots of events that people are able to take part of. One of my very favorite memories from first year is they do midnight mass at Easter every single year, and everybody is welcome to attend that. And it's an incredibly cool experience. I'd like to think that people that are coming to Kings are just generally curious people. And again, if you're not religious, but you're just a curious person and you like to have fun and experience new cultural opportunities, that's a really great one to attend to. There's a 2-hour candlelit mass that starts at midnight. And it's really amazing to witness. And then you all get to go to a second church for a really big feast, and there's like dancing all into the wee hours of the morning, which is always a really fun experience. Throughout the year, we do special stuff in the dining hall, like there's maritime night where there's a big maritime feast and performances of traditional Nova Scotian music. There's Big Night, which is a big talent show every year. One of my favorite ones from first year was what we call the Great Debate. And that is where they pick a debate topic and they divide a couple professors and students from FIP into 2 different teams. And they do this kind of big theatrical debate with mostly FIP students attending, but anybody's allowed to attend, and it's great fun. And I think in my year, the question was, is everything else that we read in FIP just a footnote to the Epic of Gilgamesh? And the Epic of Gilgamesh is always the first book that's read. And it is a hilarious time, and everybody's always laughing and cheering on their friends. So that's a really great opportunity. And just in general, there's so many day-to-day activities that I couldn't even begin to name, because when you live in such a close-knit community, the experiences just kind of come to you. And my favorite thing about being in first year and living on campus was I never knew when I would wake up in the morning what kind of activities I would find myself doing before I went to bed. And I think that's really unique about Kings.
And I think Yolanda would never let us live it down if we didn't mention classics in the quad.
Yeah, so I was going to talk about the Theater Society.
I was waiting for someone else to do it for me because I'm not technically involved in the Theatrical Society. So one of our largest student societies on campus is the King's Theatrical Society, which we call the KTS. And the KTS every year, it's extremely student run, entirely student run, just as a heads up. Every single year, as their first performance of the year, they will put on an ancient Greek or Roman play, whether that's a tragedy or comedy. The last 2 years, it's been a comedy, which has been a lovely surprise for all of us, because I think not this year, but last year, it was the first comedy they had done in like 7 or 8 years. So the most recent 2 that we've done have been The Birds and the Frogs, both by Aristophanes. And then the one before that was Antigone, which was also one that was read in my year of foundation year program. Some years the play is something that they're reading in foundation year, and some years it's completely random and completely unrelated to the program, but is a really cool way to be involved with like the ancient world. Most of the time it's presented shortly after the ancient world section finishes up in foundation year. And that presentation actually happens. The play is entirely set on our library steps. So if you can imagine, if you've ever seen a picture of our quad, highly suggest looking it up online because it will help like contextualize this a bunch. But it happens on the library steps. So the library like background kind of becomes their backstage, and everyone sits on the kind of grass that surrounds it. There's normally free hot chocolate before the show as well, which is really lovely, especially when residence is right there and you bring your own mug with. So everyone gathers around on their blankets. And the play kind of happens in a similar style to like the Greek amphitheater, where the sun goes down as the acts progress. So it's really fun to just like sit there with your friends. And normally it's first and second years who put on the show as well, with like an upper year student acting as directors and producers, which is a really fun experience. And every year I am the first person sitting in the quad ready to see classics. So big draw for a lot of students, and like hundreds of people show up to that. It's one of our like biggest and most attended things all year.
Amazing. Well, thank you all so much for talking about some King's traditions that you've been involved in or that you want to give a shout out to. I also just want to highlight, there's been so many good questions in the chat. I have been typing out the answer to a couple that have like shorter answers, so you can see those on your screen. Okay, what opportunities are there for working at the university while you're studying? Literally all of you are campus employees. Many of you are student ambassadors, which is why you're here being a student ambassador, but there are other campus jobs as well. Does anyone else want to like touch on some of those?
I can talk about that. Yeah, so I guess like one of my on-campus jobs is being a student ambassador, which means like leading tours, doing panels like this, just helping out with like all kinds of admission events. There's so many like opportunities to work on campus. I think I remember seeing a stat when I was applying to King's that I think like 1/3 of all King's students have an on-campus job, and so that could look like working in the library as like at the circulation desk, or you could be working at like some of our student-run businesses like the Galley Cafe. Um, yeah, I mean, and then yeah, there's just so many opportunities on campus, and they're always happy to have students help run it. Yeah.
Yeah, student-run businesses, lots of different types of campus jobs. There's a couple questions here that are also like career related, and are kind of named at specific people. So Miranda, since you are a junior Dawn, are there any perks to being a Dawn? That's a question that's in the chat here.
That is a multi-layered question. So I want to say yes to start. There are totally perks of being a Dawn. My personal perk is that I get guaranteed residence as an upper year student. I also do not have to pay for my residence room, and King's pays me in the form of the room that I'm living in. And in addition to that, I get 14 meals a week at our meal hall. In contrast to that, that is my payment as someone who is an employee at the university. I don't have to worry about rent coming out of my my bank account each month. But what I do instead is I am supporting students. I work as part of a 24-hour on-call shift, where I might be on call between 2 to 4 times a month, depending on what time of year it is, and like supporting students responding to mental health crises and shutting down a party that goes against residence guidelines. Sometimes you are framed as the bad guy on campus, when most of the time what I do in my job is supporting students and creating a healthy, active, and lovely environment to live in, rather than like kind of party atmosphere that some other residence communities might have. But like there's totally perks of I live on campus. I'm a 30-second walk to everything. It's kind of a really beautiful thing. In addition to that, it's like I get paid for this. So there are perks to every job. And as a Dawn, I've found that the student support aspect of it is truly what I love. So I would not be able to do this job if I did not find myself deeply, deeply loving the work that I'm doing. Just because it is like, it's a taxing position. I can't lie. You're kind of expected to be on all the time. Like I've had students walk up to me with like serious conversations while I'm having lunch. And it's like, it can be kind of a jarring thing, but in addition to that, it's like, as a Dawn, that's my expectation. And I love being there for students and I love doing those things. And your Dawns want to be there for you as well. So it's a massive time commitment, but totally perks of living on campus. I love living in residence. Someone does my dishes for me, and that's a beautiful thing. So some of those things are like typical.
Thank you so much, especially Miranda. Thank you for being like honest about that. Being a Dawn is hard work, and it's not something that people take on lightly. Like it's a big responsibility.
Yeah, I never want to discourage. Sorry, I don't want to like ever discourage a student who's like coming to residence for the first time for reaching out to us. But as you like become a student in your upper years and you remember what your Dawn did for you, and if you want to then do that for another student, if you felt like a strong connection to your Dawn or you were really involved in residence life, like that might be something you take into account in the future.
There's another question here that's very specifically about careers and making decisions, and it's for Jenna specifically. So there's a person who asked, I'd like to ask Jenna how they feel about feels about looking for a job on campus, off campus, the difficulty of maybe finding a job in journalism. This is a pretty open-ended question, but yeah, if you want to speak to it, please go ahead.
Yeah, so even any journalism student could answer this question, but I think I'm actually uniquely positioned to answer this question because I actually am the news editor of the Dalhousie Gazette. So just in general, a really great thing about King's is that you get complete access to all the extracurriculars at Dal as well. And so even though I'm a King's student, I am an employee of the Dal Gazette. And most of our staff, because that's where the journalism school lives, is from King's. And so it is a real job. It pays real money. So I'm just essentially in charge of the news section and of, pitching and editing stories and writing them and kind of deciding what goes into our paper. And so we print every other week, and the Dal Gazette is one of the last print newspapers in Halifax. And so you can find it both physically and online. So I've been very lucky to be involved in that. Other on-campus kind of journalism related jobs. King's has recently reinvigorated our student magazine called The Watch. And so that is more of like a King's focused on campus magazine. It was kind of dormant for a few years, but some of my friends, yeah, it's right there. That's the newest edition. Some of my friends from the journalism program have recently revived that. And so there are options to actually be a working journalist while you're still, a King student. And I know the Dal Gazette does pay like a pretty real substantial salary. And I think the Watch is a bit more of an honorarium because it's a bit smaller. So there's those opportunities. Also, as a student, we have a saying in the journalism program: you are not a journalism student, you are a journalist, you are a working journalist, you are in your classes producing real stories that are being published either in the Dal Gazette or on the King's journalism class publication, The Signal, or you can pitch any story that you write for class or any story that you write extracurricularly to any major news outlet. So some of the big ones in Halifax are the CBC, CTV, we have the Saltwire and the Halifax Examiner. And so people in the journalism program are getting their stories published in real time while they're students. So that's kind of more speaking to the part about working as a journalist while you're in school. Now, if you're asking me more so how I feel about my career prospects after university, there is just kind of the general saying about journalism that it's a bit of a dying industry. I personally disagree with that. Maybe this is just my blind hopefulness as somebody who's getting her degree in this. But I know that the journalism program not only teaches you how to be a journalist, but just in general teaches you how to be a curious and aware global citizen and an excellent writer. So we have lots of graduates in the program that go on to work at publications all over the country, like the Globe and Mail, the Toronto Star, CBC, CTV, etc. And it's also really great that we have that internship built into the fourth year of the program, because you graduate from the J School already having a real internship at a real news organization. So you have something on your resume and a leg up already into those organizations. We also have lots of great professors and mentors that have, connections sort of all over the country and are always kind of helping our students get those connections and opportunities at the major outlets. Other than that, like I was saying, journalists and graduates from our program have so many transferable skills and can go on to work in communications anywhere. We have lots of people that more so pursue like publishing or creative writing. And so if you're asking me if I'm nervous graduating with a degree in a so-called dying industry, I very much disagree with that. I am actually not concerned at all. I know that King's has given me all the tools that I need to find whatever kind of job that I would like to look for after I graduate.
Thank you. I really appreciate you being so honest about that, Jenna, and talking about like exactly how you're feeling. We're gonna fly through the last 3 questions in the chat, but before we do that, because we have about basically like 10 minutes left or so before we want to wrap up. For the people who are online and still listening to this, we will do a little prize draw. I will send someone a really nice like King's gift pack. And in order to do that, because we have anonymous attendees in Zoom and that kind of thing, I'm putting a link in the chat right now to literally like a 2-question feedback survey that if you are someone who's listening to this right now and you want to let us know what are some other what's some feedback that you have about this session, you can. And if you fill in on that what your email address is, we'll pick someone randomly from that group and I'll send you a little prize back for coming along today. So I'm throwing that in the chat so people can do it while we answer the last few questions that are in our queue here. What sort of activities do students do in and around Halifax? What are the best things about the city area? Yeah, I think of the people on the panel, Ryan is the student who has traveled from the furthest to be here. So maybe I'll let Ryan start. What are some things you like about Halifax?
Okay, the biggest thing that I love about Halifax is just how walkable the city is. Compared to like my hometown, it's so I like a car is not necessary for anything. We get bus passes as students, and that has treated me so well so far. And I also just love walking. The campus is in such a great area of the city, and like getting to the harbor is like a 20-minute walk, and it's when the weather's good, it's a very beautiful walk. So I love that part about it. Really close to campus, we got like this like I don't know what the exact area it's called, but it's on Spring Garden Road. It's very near. There's a lot of cool little shops and stuff. And my friends and I, like every Tuesday when it's student discount day at Sobeys, we like hang out around that area and we just go into our little favorite stores and stuff. There's a lot of also amazing local businesses around the area. So tons of different things just to go check out around Halifax. Yeah.
Amazing. Any other Halifax highlights for people?
I love the public gardens. I sometimes find that being on King's campus, it's really small. And one of my favorite things to remind students of in those first like 2 or 3 weeks when they're on campus and they're like, I feel homesick and I need something to like remind me that there is a place that isn't just where I am right now. Or when students are feeling super stressed about an assignment, I totally recommend like going for a nature walk. And we have some really great green spaces in Halifax. So public gardens is one of those ones that's like really well kept, like flowers, and there's a bunch of ducks and there's a beautiful pond. And it's one of my favorite places to go and like get an ice cream from a place across the street and just walk around with my ice cream. We also have Point Pleasant Park, which has like so many beautiful trails. It's a bit of a further walk from here, but you can totally bus it if you want to. You can totally walk that way as well. We're kind of like a 3-minute walk from the water if you're heading in the other direction that isn't the harbor. So there's lots of different ways to like connect with nature on campus, and everyone will tell you to go visit the harbor front when you end up in Halifax. There's so much to see and do that's kind of just like you're going to see and do it all. It's going to take you your entire degree to do it all, because there is so much to see, that I really encourage students to just get out and walk around, especially in those first few months when the sun is still around, and it's a bit warmer. I will never say that Halifax is a hot location to live, but be prepared to dress for all 4 seasons in a single day and to just like embrace that aspect of living along the ocean.
I'll just say one other thing because I'm a like local Halifax kid who lived my whole life here, up until I went to King's. And when I was in high school, I was like, Halifax is not it. I was bored by the city. I did not think it was an interesting or fun place to live. But I stayed here for university and it really opened my eyes because what I learned was Halifax is not that fun when you're in high school. It is extremely fun when you're in university. And that's because this is a university city. So King's, Dal, St. Mary's University, Mount St. Vincent University, NSCAD, the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design, NSCC, that's 6 post-secondary institutions in one relatively small city. And so that means that a huge percentage of Halifax's population is between 17 and 24 years old, or at least that's true between September and April every year. And so that makes this an incredibly fun place to live. Like whether that's about like music, arts, culture, restaurants, athletics, like those types of things, there's just a lot to do. And a lot of like young people from all around the world. Yeah, it makes it a very fun place to live. Okay, There's two last questions in the chat. They're both very admissions related, so I'm going to fly through them and thank people for asking all of their good questions. One of them was about how IB transfer credits will impact students who are taking FIP. So if you're a student who's coming in with a transfer credit, either because you've done IB or AP, you've got a couple options of what you might want to do with that transfer credit. So sometimes, FIP is typically like 4 days a week for most students with room for one additional elective. Some students who have a transfer credit just choose not to take that additional elective alongside. So that is one option that you could consider. Another thing that you might want to consider is diving into a second year level class as your elective. So let's say you love biology and you took IB higher level biology and you did great and you got a 5, 6, or 7 on your exam. And so now it's like the equivalent of you've already taken first year level biology. So if that was you, you could take FIP and then you could take a second year level biology class because you basically already have a prerequisite, right? So you have a couple of different things you can do with a transfer credit. Transfer credits really just give you more flexibility and a couple of different options, and an academic advisor can help talk you through those options that are available to you. What is the acceptance rate and how long is it a wait to see if you are accepted? Depending on when you apply, there's busier times of year, there's less busy times of year, but we try to process applications and get admissions decisions out to students as quickly as humanly possible. Expect 2 or 3 weeks. Don't be surprised if it's faster than that. If we're missing information from you, we'll reach out and let you know what we're missing. That kind of thing. Acceptance rate is a bit of a different question. We don't really make public information about this available. In most Canadian universities, admissions are just based on grades. We will tell you exactly what grades we're looking for. If you apply by the deadline and you have those types of grades, you can expect that you're going to get a positive outcome on your applications decision. This is a little different. Like in the US higher ed system, acceptance rates are kind of more of a thing. But we tend to have students that if they're applying to King's, it's because they're into what we do and they're interested and curious. So it's kind of a self-selecting group. And we will tell you exactly what we're looking for on the admission requirements, and we encourage you to apply before deadlines, but we're not going to go into acceptance rates because it's not really that relevant. And then finally, the last question in the chat here is about what is the breakdown of students in FIP by discipline, how many science, how many arts, etc. Okay, so there's about 220, 240 students doing foundation year program in a typical year. The majority of those are going to be Bachelor of Arts students. Bachelor of Arts is the most common program on our campus. The second and third most common will often switch back and forth between journalism and science. Those are the two next most largest chunks of students. So some years journalism students would be the second most common group, and some years science students would be the second most common group. And music students are just like a tiny fraction of the student population. No one's giving me the nod of you have experienced this, but we usually have maybe 1 or 2 students in a year that are planning to do the Bachelor of Music degree who also do the foundation year program. That's a bit of a more niche degree. So yeah, a lot of students in arts, and then journalism and science kind of make up the rest. And those were all the questions in the chat. So we're going to wrap things up. What you can expect from me is you'll get a follow-up email from me with more information about all of our upcoming events. That link that I shared has that very short survey, so you can let us know if this event was helpful for you, and throw your email address in there and I'll do a random draw and find us a prize winner. And I really want to thank Ryan, Miranda, Noam, Jenna, for being online with me this evening and answering questions with so much detail and honesty, which is exactly what we were hoping you would do. So thank you. We really appreciate it. If you have any questions at all about anything King's, admissions at ukings.ca, I'm typing it into the chat right now, is a great starting point. And we hope we'll see you on campus at some point in the future. Have a great evening. Happy holiday season to people who are celebrating. And take care and reach out with anything you need. Bye now.